Hi guys, welcome back to my kitchen. It is a random Wednesday night and for a few days now I've sort of been planning on making some pan-seared scallops tonight for supper because I know they're one of my son's favorites, but I was waffling about what to put with them. Anyway, my son came home and he was rambling on about this particular pasta dish that his girlfriend had prepared for him. And so of course I had to get her to share the recipe with me just to see what was so good about it. And of course he was right, it was very, very good. In any event, so we're gonna make that as a side to go with our pan-seared scallops. So you're kind of getting a twofer tonight. So the pasta dish is like a tomato, basil, feta, pasta sauce that you can serve over any type of noodle really, although apparently the original recipe called for macaroni. We're actually going to use penne tonight. And then the pan-seared scallops are going to be just a basic pan-sear with maybe some butter and lemon. Very, very simple. So let's get started and we'll show you what kind of ingredients we have working for us tonight. Okay, so for the pasta dish itself, we've got some penne pasta cooking in some boiling salted water here, and that's probably going to need about a good 8 minutes or so. Moving over here, we've got just some cherry tomatoes, grape tomatoes, whatever, that I put in a little, I'm only cooking for 2, so it's a fairly small pan, and this is just one of those little pint-size clamshells that you can get. Here's the clamshell that it came out of right here. So one of these size clamshells of tomatoes. Okay, we've got our scallops. Those are for our pan-seared scallops, obviously. We've got some salt, pepper. We've got a brick of feta cheese, basically the kind that comes in brine in a big solid block. We've got 1/4 cup of olive oil here. I never said the recipe was light. For our scallops, we've got some shallot here, which I've minced. We've got some butter that we're going to be using. The garlic that you see chopped there, that's actually going to go in the pasta. And so is this lovely fresh basil back here that we have shredded. And then I've got some lemons that will be juiced into our hot pan at the very end of our scallops here to sort of deglaze the pan and make a little bit of a sauce to go over the scallops. So that's all the ingredients, pretty simple really. And now just a word about the scallops. These are really small. I mean, these are really, really small. I like them much bigger, generally speaking, but really there wasn't a lot of choice at the grocery store, and they had a pretty good deal on these ones. So what I have done is I've thoroughly thawed them, and I did run them under some cold water just to clean them off a little bit, and they've been sitting on a paper towel here. You don't want them to go wet into your pan. You want them to be dry and thoroughly thawed, okay? So you can sort of pat them off with a paper towel if you like. I've just had these sitting here. I'm quite confident that they're going to be good enough. It's going to take a while to sear them all because there's so many, but anyway, we'll get started with that once we get our pasta in the oven. Okay, so let's get started with our pasta here. So we've got our tomatoes just in our little roasting pan. I'm just going to kind of make some room in the middle of the pan, and we're going to plop that entire brick of feta cheese right in the middle. We have our oven preheated to 400 degrees. At this point, we are going to add a 1/4 cup of olive oil. If you were doing this for a larger group or feeding more than 2 people, you would double this, okay? So just drizzle everything with the olive oil. And then we're gonna do a sprinkle of salt, sprinkle of ground pepper, now we're simply going to pop this into our 400-degree oven for 35 minutes. We'll check our pasta here and we'll set our timer so that we don't lose track of our sauce. This is really nice because it's going to basically do all the work for us in the oven other than just boiling the pasta. Okay, so let's get back to our scallops. So I have a pan here. Now normally when I'm working with larger scallops, I would only use my cast iron pan, but because these are a little smaller and I really don't want to take any chance of them sticking, I am going to go for a non-stick pan. I have a teaspoon of olive oil and 1 tablespoon of butter in here, and I'm just going to get that melting. Now the thing with the scallops, a couple things actually. You want them to go into a really hot pan. You don't want them to be crowded in the pan. And once you put them in here, resist the urge to fiddle around with them. So we're going to get that butter completely dissolved and covering the bottom of our pan with our olive oil. Okay, so we're hot enough now, and we're going to put our scallops in, leaving space between them. And obviously we're going to have to do this in a couple different batches. The reason you don't want them piled on top of one another is you really don't want them to steam. You're looking for them to sear. Here comes my taste tester. No, not raw. Okay, so they are just going to sit there and get happy in that mixture of butter and olive oil for 2 minutes, I guess, before we flip them over. And when we flip them over, what we're looking for is like a crispy, caramelized crust on one side, and then we're going to do the same thing to the other side. You don't want to overcook them. You don't want to try turning them and trying to split them. Okay, so they've had a couple minutes in the pan. Let's turn them over. And yeah, that's what you're looking for, is like a crust on the other side, just like that. We're going to give them a quick flip. These are so small. These can overcook really, really fast. So you can't just put these in the pan and kind of walk away. Larger scallops, I mean, you still can overcook them pretty easily. But you have a lot less leeway with these little ones. But like I said, right now we're in the middle of the pandemic. And there's not a ton of fresh stuff available. Fresh is the way I would generally prefer to buy these. But. Okay, so these have had a couple minutes on the other side. They're looking nice. They are good to go. We don't want to overcook them, so I'm just going to remove them to another plate. And maintaining our stove over that like medium-high heat, we're going to go in with our next batch. Okay, so these guys is our second batch, and they've had a couple minutes to get happy.
They smell so good.
Thank you.
Oh my god.
So again, we're flipping them over, and we're just going to do a straight repeat, getting that sear on the other side. Okay, our scallops are good and happy, so we're going to just take them, put them aside on a plate here. And as you can see, we've got quite a lot of goodness left in our pan here, so we're going to cut our heat back to like a between like a medium to ever so slightly medium high. And what we're going to do is we're going to add our last tablespoon of butter in there. We're going to add our shallot that we've minced. That's just one shallot. And we're just going to start moving this around. And it's going to loosen, as you can see, all this good stuff that's on the bottom here. It's going to loosen that, sort of deglazing our pan. And don't worry about the big bits in here. That doesn't matter. It's all full of flavor anyway. Okay, so now we're going to take our lemon. We have a whole lemon here that we're going to juice in. Don't worry about the seeds going in here. We'll get them out. And I'm going to increase the temperature now that there's no danger of anything burning. And the second half of my lemon. And then my lemon zest, which is just so nice with scallops or seafood of any kind, really. I'm just going to stir that. And that will make us a nice little sauce to be served with our scallops and alongside our delicious pasta, which is just about ready to come out of the oven. So let's give that a check. Look at this. That is looking delicious. So all those tomatoes, the skin has wrinkled and slightly charred. They've burst. A lot of their juices have come out and they're mixing with the olive oil. The feta has some crispy golden edges on it. This looks really, really good. So to this, we are going to add a couple of ingredients, but first, let's get our pasta fork, and we're just gonna kind of break that up. Break up our tomatoes. I'm gonna use an oven mitt here to help me get some grip. Wow, that looks really delicious. Okay, so to this, we've got 1 clove of minced garlic, fresh. Just gonna stir that in. And a generous plate of fresh basil, because why not? Oh my gosh, it smells so good. You can smell every single ingredient. The feta cheese, the garlic, the basil, the tomatoes, even the olive oil. It smells really delicious. So now, let's take some of our pasta that we've had sitting here in reserve. We'll just pop it in and give it a stir. If this tastes as good as it looks and as good as it smells, this one is going to become a staple in this house, and I don't care how many Weight Watcher points it cost me. I would rather have a very small portion of a really good pasta than an entire plate of something that's mediocre at best. So we are joined by the official taste tester. So Andrew, give us your verdict on the pasta and the scallops, either alone or together or whatever. So what do you think about the pasta?
Pasta's really good.
Pasta's awesome. Okay, good.
Scallops are amazing.
Are they good? You love them? See, it just goes to show you that even if they're not the biggest scallops in the world, you can sear them. It just takes a little more time and a little more effort, and you definitely don't want to overcook them. With scallops, you are looking for something that kind of almost melts in your mouth as opposed to being tough or chewy, which they can, particularly when they're small, they can become very quickly. So I hope you have enjoyed this little video. I hope you'll be back in the kitchen with us soon. And I hope you, official taste tester, are enjoying your dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks very much for joining us, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.